Hello everyone. This short video is the continuation of SQL queries in phpMyAdmin. So today we will learn how to add a constraint in a table, a constraint of foreign key, and how to create indexes. So let's get started. So this is my database, MyDB. That's the database I'm working in, and it has two tables here, customer and items. So let's open and have a look at customer. So if I go into the structure, so cust ID is my primary key, right? And I have 6 columns here. Now PID is a primary key in items table. Now I want to make it a foreign key in this table. In order to do that, we will click here the relation view, and we will create a foreign key constraint. So to add a constraint, I have to give a name here. So I can say FK item. It can be anything, but let's give a meaningful name. So FK item ID, that's the name of my constraint that I'm adding. To which column am I adding? It is to PID, right? Then database, here we can choose MyDB, that's the database, and table is customer. Okay, so I'm creating PID as a foreign key in my customer table. The constraint name is FK item ID. Now on delete restrict, on update restrict, this means if you are trying to delete a row in customer table, it will give you a warning that the row consists of a foreign key, which is a primary key in another table, so you cannot delete it until you go and delete the particular row in another table. Okay, so there are other options where we can say no action or cascade, which will allow us to delete the row even if we have a foreign key, but the best is to leave it restricted so that user by mistake do not delete a row that is having a foreign key. So I'm gonna then say preview SQL. So that's my SQL where I'm altering my table customer, and I'm adding a constraint name called FK item ID, which is a foreign key on PID, right? And it is restricted when you want to delete or update. So I'm gonna close this, and I'm gonna say save. So my SQL is now executed successfully. In order to see, I'm going to click on the customer. Let's look at the structure here. So now you see, before it was only cust ID, that was the primary key. Now we also have a key symbol on our PID, meaning that now this PID is my foreign key. If you look here under the indexes, automatically an index is created with your foreign key. Now what index is? So index is basically created for search optimization, right? Like in a book, if you want to go to a particular chapter or a particular section in a book, the easier and the faster way to reach to that section is going through the index, right? So you go to the index, you look for that particular page number, and then you quickly go to that page number rather than searching from in a sequential order from the beginning to the end, which will consume a lot of time. We usually use indexes in order to reach to the destination fastly. So this is the reason why indexes are created. So same way, like right now in our database, in our table, we have only 3 rows, right? But what if we have thousands of rows? and we are writing a select query. So instead of the software has to go through each row by row, each data in a sequential order, we create an index so that there is a pattern, and the database will quickly look at the index first and then go to that data, right? So it is faster. So indexes are basically created to reach to your data in a faster manner and to optimize your search query. So how do we create our own indexes? Now, by default, it has created two indexes here. So it always use IDs to create indexes. So if you see here, let's look in our structure. There are already two indexes created, meaning when we type our search query, select star from customers where ID is this, it basically looks for the ID first and then captures the data. So indexes are always created on the IDs. But what if I don't want index on the ID? I want an index, let's say, on the name. So I will go on an SQL tab and let's create an index on a customer name. So the syntax is create index name. So cust name, so that can be anything, right? On my table is customer, and then I have to give my column. So which column am I choosing to create an index? Cust name, right? So that's the syntax: create index name, on table name, and then the column name. Now if I say go, so it has created an index. Now in order to look, let's go into the structure. So you can see here that cust name index is created, right? Now I'm going to drop this. So drop meaning when you want to delete an index. So now what happens is that when you are writing select query, the database is going to search according to three indexes, right? So ID, foreign key, and as well as cust name. Now let's delete this and let's create a combination of an index on a combination of two columns. So let's say I want to create an index, create index name is cust name gender. So I want my database to search based on the customer's name and the gender. So go through the data based on the gender and the name. So I'm creating this index on table is customer. So this is a combination of two columns. And then I will have to give my column name. So the first column is cust name and the second column is gender. And I'm gonna say okay, go. So it has created an index. Now let's have a look in the structure. So there's a new index here called cust name gender with two columns, cust name and gender. Okay, so today we learned how to create a constraint, add a constraint to your table, and also how to add an index. So thank you.